Is it a struggle? Yes, we have to realize our strengths and our weaknesses. Hi, and welcome to Why Not? And I'm your host, Janice Newman, helping others to reach their goals by providing interesting topic, outstanding guests to help you reach your goals to get you from where you're at now to where you want to be. Thank you for watching and welcome back. Hi, today we have a great guest, a great topic. Our topic is renewed life. And we have a guest in our studio, Jerry Davis L. He is a mental health professional that has actually gone from, unfortunately, being incarcerated to another tragedy happening to changing his life renewed. Okay, welcome to the show, Jerry. How are you?
Hey, Janice. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. You have such a wonderful, remarkable story of how you went from being incarcerated to being a tragedy happened, and I'll let you discuss that, and to just a outstanding citizen who you are now and just helping others. It's just remarkable. So, Jerry, would you mind telling us a little bit about your original past before the tragedy happened? How was your life before the tragedy?
I'll just try to shorten it because my childhood was great. I can't take away from that. Two-parent home. Even when my dad left, I was the youngest when he left. I was like 10 or 11. He was still in my life. Has been in my life, still is around. And then I guess after high school, I just started looking at other avenues, and which was illegal activity avenues to get to where I thought I wanted to go.
Okay.
And I always was an A student, but that path took me down a road of a lot of trauma where I was in and out of prison. I've been in prison 7 times, and I think that's traumatic in itself because although you heal that number, you never hear from that number. And I always repeat my number to remind myself of where I come from. And that number is B as in boy, 35789. It's etched in your sight because you are defined by that number. They don't call you Jerry Davis L. They call you by that number when they bring in mail or calling you out your cell.
So that's how you were in prison. They just go by the number. You just don't have a name anymore then?
Well, it's like twofold. So you have, when they bring you mail, you have to say your number. And they might say your name afterwards. So they'll say, or you say your name, they say, what's your number? You define by that number. Even with a call pass, if you're going to the doctor or whatever, you define by that number, which is attached to your name. But the number really defines you. It's like your fingerprint.
It defines you. It takes away who you are and you're a number now.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Go ahead. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I got that number in 1992, and I still know it by heart.
Wow.
But it don't define me anymore. That was my first time in prison. But unbeknownst to me at that time, that it's traumatic. And I think a lot of individuals coming from prison doesn't recognize the trauma that's associated with prison. Okay. And you come back and try to catch up from where you left off at. But you dealing with that unaddressed trauma or whatever issue you have going on is not addressed. So you come out and you repeat that vicious cycle. And that's why statistics say is the recidivism rate is high for returning citizens, especially within the first 3 years.
Is there counseling when you get out of prison or when you're in prison? Do they do counseling or mental health issues or counseling like that at all? You smile. No.
I'm laughing because it's like we've been challenging that for years to come. And I would say no. I'm gonna say no because they don't deal with the core of the issues. I mean, you got the basic counseling about your, I mean, I guess the caseloads are heavy. So you got the basic counseling, like, your outdate, your plans, phone call, like when I got that tragedy call. I did get some minimum counseling then because of the tragedy when my daughter was murdered, but counselors to a bare minimum coming out. It's probably to a bare minimum depending on the neighborhood you're going to. I was fortunate to got suggested to go to a treatment center in Joliet, which I was totally against. And I'm glad I went because that's when I did get some healing. I did get see a counselor, a psychiatrist for 3 months to help me in my healing process.
But
So
there's
I was,
limited but there's limited mental health counseling while or prison reform while you're in prison. There's no real help. You're just a number and you're living day by day in
yeah,
darkness without
you
windows. Wow.
limited. For a lack of better word, I would say very, 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 with a very, very, very limited when it comes to mental health. Because I think the system was designed to just treat the behavior. So they don't really treat the root cause, which is the mental health. So you have something happen somewhere in your life that cut you down that path. There's some good and bad in all people, I believe. So
But if
I
they,
don't.
but if they do that, then how do they expect when you are released not to go back in the same thing if there's no
Yeah,
help?
I'm gonna answer both of them questions at once. So I'm gonna answer the mental health and that. And I think, and I spoke about this in New York City at Columbia University. A person asked me, I don't remember the person in the audience, but they said the prison system doesn't work, dismantle it. And I challenged that because the prison system does work. It was designed to house people. And it has become the prison industrial complex, what they like to call it. It's a money system. I mean, I've spoken on this several times. I don't know the exact cost now. I did the research probably about in 2015, and it costs 30 to 35,000 to house an individual. It
Wow.
costs less than that to send you to college. So if they wanted to change the system, educate you, they got the money for it. Well, college is becoming a business too. So it's like, it's really follow the money, as they say. It's really about the dollar. The prison boom really blossomed, I'm thinking the late 70s, early 80s. That's when Ronald Reagan got in, the cocaine hit. I'm not blaming him, but I'm saying in this era, he was president and the cocaine hit them marginalized communities. The prison system blossomed. I think it was probably maybe 10 prisons back in the 70s, 60s, something like that. I don't have the data at hand, but I know it's over 30 now.
Okay.
So I mean, we know it's about the money. So the system does work. It's designed to lock you up. It's designed to house you. It's not designed to transform your life. I think that comes to the individual when the light bulb come on, and you have to just really take a look at that you wasn't a bad person after all. And I think that mirrored me when my daughter was murdered. Even though I had to go through, the challenge as a father, losing my child, our child. I went through that process, but my ex-wife, she did a good job when I went to the funeral 30 days before I got out of prison because I looked at the pictures, and she had the pictures that I had to recall when my daughter Monica, I like to put a name to her, was a child I used to have on my lap, and she had the pictures in the obituaries. I used to read to her. She was 2, 3 years old, and it took me back that I wasn't a bad guy after all. I just made some decisions, and I don't like to say bad decisions because I believe all my decisions, life experience, is cultivating me into the person I am today. So it was a painful journey. It was a long journey, but I think the journey made me who I am.
Now, you went in 1992, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, were you in and out of the system, or are you still in there until 2010?
No, I was in and out.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned it. I've been to prison 7 times since 1992. And that's what I was saying as far as the mental health. They don't address the mental health. We've just been having this conversation probably since I've been with the People's Lobby about 2016, somewhere up in there. Don't quote me on the dates, but we was connecting the dots that mental health and prison go hand in hand.
Right.
Going to prison 7 times says something about psych. Something like something's wrong. Okay,
Biblical number 2, 7. Now,
yeah.
now, then your daughter was murdered in 2010. How was your faith during all this time going in and out of prison? Did you
That
have a belief
moment,
in God, or what was going on in those years between 1992 and 2010 with you spiritually before your daughter tragedy?
I'll say like the prodigal son, I returned home because I grew up in the church. My dad was a Baptist deacon, but yeah, I lost faith. I lost faith during that journey. I did lose faith, but that goes back to the mental health. I lost faith in God, and I knew something existed because I'm like, you the why me, why you question it, but that goes back to the trauma and the mental health piece. But this last journey, I knew. I didn't do the prayer like the 6 times, get me out of this. I'm gonna change my life. That prayer, the foxhole prayer, that only you and your pillow know about. Right. The last time I knew, it wasn't get me out of this. It was like, I'm tired, I surrender. I'm done. The best prayer I said in my life to this day, I'm gonna own it to this day, And I do go to church. Me and my wife go to church. And I do believe in God. I'm reconnected. The best prayer I said in my life on January 3rd, I'll never forget the date, 2008, was help me.
Help
The
me.
best prayer I prayed. Help me.
It just takes a couple words. That's all it takes to let God know, help me. That's all he needs. Doesn't need a long 20-minute prayer, 30 minutes, help me.
And I ain't even call him God. I knew I was probably now, I was crying out too. But I remember being on that floor just saying, help me.
Help me.
And that was the best prayer in my life. I say that because I started accepting the help when it showed up. And I wasn't trying to, define the kind of help I need or shape you to my agenda. It was like, just help me. And leading up to our daughter being murdered, and it's twofold because I lost a child, but the girl who murdered her, they lost the mother for I think she got 10 or 12 years, something like that.
Oh, wow.
So didn't nobody win. So I forgave her when I read the trial because I knew the forgiveness was for me. It wasn't for her. And I knew them too.
Sorry to interrupt you. And you were able to go to the funeral. They did release you for that.
Yeah. I went to the funeral. My family paid for it. And it was actually after she got murdered after 12 o'clock. So it was after my birthday. So it's technically May 23rd. My birthday, May 22nd.
She got murdered on your birthday.
Yeah, well, it's after midnight when they pronounced her dead. So, but I call it on my birthday. So yeah. Wow. But that was a journey. And I said, she died for me to live because in my wildest dream, I would have never sought to be a social worker. I was more of a businessman, accounting man. I was in that lifestyle. My number was numbers, not people. So, but she died for me to live because I got a scholarship through Haymarket where I earned my certified called drug counseling. And when I went to school, I met this professor, which I didn't know he was a professor at GSU at the time, Dr. Sanders. He came and he did a presentation on substance use. And I was going to school for interdisciplinary studies. And he just told me, yeah, that was my journey. And I didn't, like I said, the help. I mean, I ain't gonna get biblical, but it say the sheep know my voice. He just told me do social work, and I didn't even question it.
Wow.
I went to school, and I found, it took me about a year to get my voice. I was like a deer in the headlights, but I found that was my passion because I'm 44 years old. I didn't know about no PowerPoint and research. Like, what? I'm like, but I asked for the help, and students are showing up. Come on, meet me at the library. And I just followed the help, no matter what it looked like, no matter what the age was. And, here I am today. So I think that's why I say it's my best prayer. And then I started building a relationship with God. I call him God, Jesus Christ, my Savior now. But at the beginning, I couldn't call it that. I knew it was something. It was bigger than me. But I had to build that relationship. And I recall, I won't get too far ahead, but I recall the murder trial. It's ironic that I'm talking about it. The murder trial was in May the next year, 2011.
Wow.
And it's like ironic that you bring this back to my memory. I remember I did a presentation in the social work class, and I was doing one on rape, and I'm trying to find my voice. Okay. Who am I? And this guy, he's one of my mentors at the time. He did one on murder, and I came up behind him, and I was the quiet one in class, and I just started crying because the trial was like the next week.
Wow.
And they thought I was crying because the presentation on rape. I was crying because the person went before me. Right. And I found out I was still healing. And I remember August of 2011, I was going back to school, and I sat in my car, and I was about to quit. I said, I am not going back in that school. But I found I was shredding that pride. Because pride was telling me, you can't go in that classroom, man. The women saw you crying, the guys, that was pride. And I heard a voice. I'm connected to God. But a voice just told me, I brought you out back. I brought you this far. Get up. I just listened to the voice. I obeyed the voice. And 7 years later,
Yeah, I know when I went back to school, I was so afraid to walk in there. And I'm like, God, I need your help. I need you to carry me. And I felt like I was floating up this ramp to the junior college. God helped me go in there because I do not remember walking. It felt like I was floating up in there to sign, and I went back to school. And it's like, I could not have did it without God. I could not have did it without God.
I agree.
Even through tragedies and good times, we need God for everything and trust in him.
I agree.
So now, I know I don't want to go back to a lot of the murder, if that's okay with you, with the trial, but what transformed you to go back to school? Was it the trial, getting out of prison, wanting to help others? What inspired you to go back to college? Because that's a huge step.
It was. And I had a, well, I'm gonna say all my counselors good. I'm just because I look for the good in everybody. But I had my counselor, Miss P. Her name is Miss Perkins, and she was younger than me too. She, because I had all these ideas, but none was on paper. It was like 6 months for my release, and she told me, she said, I need you to do a 10-year plan. So, and I put it on hold for. I remember I wrote that plan. I got to find it too. In like March, probably March. And she was on me from about January. And she wouldn't pester me. She was like, I meet her once a week. She's like, Jerry, you write the plan? No, I'm gonna get to it. Okay. And we'll go on to something else. Come back, Jerry, you write the plan? No, I'm gonna get to it. And one day I sat in my cell and I just prayed and I just wrote the plan. I wrote a 10-year plan. And school was part of that plan. Everything in my plan manifested. Everything within that 10-year manifested, with the exception of the house, because 10 years was June 2020, and we got the house in December. Okay. But everything and some from that came true. I had to do the work. I had to have some hope, but I remember because I used to listen to T.D. Jakes a lot in jail. I started going to church, and I just prayed and I just wrote. And this counselor named Mr. Neal, he typed it for me. But the ironic part, that's why I say you get your challenge and your test, and you, even in the dark, I grow in my dark times, but you can't quit because I've never remembered. And I think that's another reason why I wanted to become a counselor. Prior to social work, I never forget about a week after our daughter was murdered, and I had about 3 weeks left, and I was scared. And this other counselor, because I had a new counselor, Miss P left, she looked me in my eyes, and you grow, you grow on your counselor's like your God, because like this personal professional, they got your best interest. And I believe she still do. But she looked at me and told me I might not make it.
Wow.
So she looked at the data, the number, B35789. This is your 7th time in prison. Your daughter's murdered, trauma. You're probably going back to a marginalized neighborhood. What's the chance you're getting counseled? I think she looked at it from that point of view instead of as a human being transformed.
Okay.
And I remember how that felt, the knife twisted. I remember what that pain felt like. Knife. Yeah. And I knew back then what I was going to do, and I knew I was going to be the greatest at it because I know what that felt like. I know what that felt like. And I think that's what motivated me to be who I am. And I had to forgive her too, and then show you, guys, you got a funny sense of humor. Like 3 years later, when I was on the path doing the advocacy work, she reached out to me and wanted to let the people in jail know what I was doing. The guy that might not make it.
The guy that may not make it.
Yeah, so it was like, okay. But I think that helped me become a better social worker too. Because I do independent contract as well with clients as a therapist.
Okay.
And we have to hold our judge and our biases.
Right. Yeah. You're in prison. You only have so much connection anyway with the counseling. And here's this lady put a knife in your back, twisting and everything. But that actually sparked you to do better. And praise God you did. And your life is totally renewed and better. Now, you also at Governor State started a program to help others. Okay. Generating hope. And like the Bible says, there's faith, love, and hope, and love is the greatest of all of them. You're dealing with hope. Tell us a little bit about Generating Hope that you started at GSU.
So Generating Hope, I was one of the co-founders. It was 4 of us, and Daryl, Terry, and Patricia. And it started a support group. So me, Daryl, and Terry, I believe they got there a year before me. I know Terry did. Had been to prison, and Patricia, who was a Caucasian, her mom had been to prison and was on drugs. So we formed together. I think all of us was in our 40s. Trisha probably was in her middle 30s, and we just each other's support because I'm walking around the campus like everybody know. Everybody don't know I've been in jail, but I got that. Everybody know, and we had that support group, and it grew from that and that bond. And I think before we became an organization, Dr. Glass took us to a social work conference in Dallas, Texas. And social workers wasn't talking about mass incarceration.
Right.
And our voice was heard. And that was my first time. I was nervous. I had Daryl and Terry lean on me because I've never been to a conference with all social workers, these doctor degrees. But it was like, wow. And I found myself just rambling, like getting rid of the pain. And that's when we took up the mantle. That's when we became an organization probably a year later. We took up the mantle because Governor State in 2014, I believe, became a four-year university,
Correct.
and they created that policy we call ban the box. So they put on the mission application the box, have you been convicted of a felony?
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I remember we had students coming to us, and with this girl, I won't call her name, came to us crying. I mean, she had prostituted probably 15 years ago, but she
Right.
was an A student coming from Kennedy King, and she had to go in front of student life, which was students, and she had to reveal her past. She had to relive that.
Really?
And then she got I think I call it discrimination. I call it what it was. I like to call the elephant in the room. You was on a year probation.
Hmm.
You had to meet with them once a month, and we was like, wow. And that's when we took up the mantle, and we got community support. We got over 1,000 petitions, signatures, and we were the first organization to meet with the president, provost, and dean, and we
Wow.
got the policy change. Uh, and that's when the president asked us to become an organization, and that's when we to this day we're an organization. I'm an alumni of the organization.
Okay. So you got the policy change that they don't have to disclose that?
It's optional
It's
now.
optional.
It's
Wow.
optional now, and if you do disclose, they will send you to the counseling center and get you support. Then they'll refer some students to Generate Hope for support. It's optional, but it's
Because
mandatory.
it's labeling you just like labeling you with the number.
There we go.
Right. So at least those labels are down and those walls are down. So that's excellent.
And we did the research that uh, most people coming from prison don't go to college and commit crime. Most campus crime happen on campus. Most
Okay.
campus rape happen on campus.
Mm.
The drugs just happen on campus. So we did the research and the data to prove that people coming from prison don't go to campus robbing and sticking up and other criminal
Right.
acts.
They go to prison or they go to the college to better their lives because they've already put that behind them. You can't just add that label back on them because they're not going to be different then. They have
There
to
we go.
be different and a new start. They
There we
need
go.
that chance of a new life.
Yeah,
That's the whole
it is.
purpose of it.
And that got me spotlight because I started being transparent who I am. I did win a Lincoln Laureate in
Mhm.
2015, and I was my graduation 2018, the master's program. I was a commencement speaker, so that was I started crying. I mean, you look at the speech, I was crying because it was like God brought me in. I mean, there was so many students I went up against. So, like your show say, why not me? But I was questioning why me?
Right.
Why
Wow.
not? And to
And
see
you're
my dad is 87, he was 84, and my
Mhm.
wife and children in the audience. I'm looking at them and I just started crying. You
Yeah,
know,
I saw the clip of your commencement speech. It was like, wow, it was very, you know, it's just speechless. It's like, wow, and your dad, and they showed on your dad in there. It's like, wow, just so proud. It's like how your life has just changed and just how God worked wonders and just unfortunately a tragedy happened, but just you're not the same person.
no, no, no,
You're not defined by your past.
no.
Can I ask you a question? If you could
Sure.
go back in time, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
What would I tell myself? And I have done that. I got my picture on the phone. Uh, that's on the phone. You probably can't see it, but that's my motivation for my exam. It's like, I'm sorry. Yeah. That's my motivation for my exam. That's my younger self when I was
Doing so.
graduating. So it was like, I'm sorry. Because I didn't embrace you. I didn't know the trauma and the pain. I didn't embrace you. I separated from you to
Mhm.
who you were. And I hugged my younger self. I went back in that space like, I'm sorry, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. There's self-care, there's love myself, and that's how I generate that to others. Like, I got you. We won again. Because we're separated. I became something that I wasn't. I came up with values and morals. I remember eating at the kitchen table every Sunday dinner. I remember all that. I remember being in before the dark and respecting your elders, but I got away from that.
Yeah.
That's why I say the prodigal son. So I had to go revisit that guy and tell him, I'm sorry, I got you.
Okay.
I hurt you out of all people. Because when I hurt him, I hurt me. So it's like, now we heal. We won. We rocking.
Now, do you work with any students before they're incarcerated? Have you worked with any of them before to try to prevent that?
Yes, well, I do that. I had a few mentees. I don't have as many now, but I've spoken in prisons. I've spoken juvenile detention. Some of my clients, I try to do Terrence because the independent therapy. my clients are 18, so
Okay.
it's part of deterrent. And then with the BAM Youth Guys Becoming a Man program, when I was a counselor, I
Hmm.
was in high school. Then I try to deter. They have a curriculum, and just add to it. But
Okay.
now it's called BTA, BAM Training Academy, with the same organization. So I'm over 5 South suburban schools. So really, I work with the counselor more. Processing whatever they're going through, making sure the curriculum, the fidelity of the curriculum delivered right. I work with administration. So the role is a little different. But yeah,
Hmm.
in therapy or any walks of life, when I'm doing mentoring or whatever, yeah, that's the goal.
Okay.
And I have to be okay that I'm just planting the seed so I don't bring it home and have my boundaries.
Now, do men look at, we only have a few more minutes left. Do men negatively look at counseling bad because of just being men? We have a few minutes left. What do you think? Should men actually go to counseling and embrace it? What is your advice to men on counseling?
Yes, we have to I think we do. I don't know if it's culturally, but I know we do view it different as a sign of weakness because I'm asking for help, something wrong with me. But just be frank, I just had counseling this year, and I'm a social worker. I had a couple because I was going through some anxieties and with the pandemic and dealing with clients and stressors. So I just had me a few sessions of counseling myself just to get back in my healing space. But yeah, I think some men view it as a weakness. I mean, especially African American men, we look at it like we don't, something wrong with me if I go get some therapy.
Mm.
We view it, I think, from a different standpoint. It could be from the past when social workers in the 70s, 80s, the myth that social work coming, that's DCFLs, they're taking the children. I don't know what connected to, but somewhere we view it as something negative instead of as a helping tool.
Okay. Are the boys that you're working with between the 8 and 18, are they more receptive with that, with the BAM versus individual counseling? I assume you do more group counseling with that. Is that more acceptable then? And they're able to let down those walls and release some of the pain?
Yeah, the boys 8 to 18, that's what I work with, grow community, independent therapist. Eventually we get there. It's not like that at the beginning. My
Right.
my method of therapy is different, and I know we got to wrap up. My first month, I don't even do no counts. We build a report. I'm a fan of what you like. I mean, if you like rock music, we're
Hmm.
gonna ram. So I know a little rock music. If you like that, I'm a fan of that connection.
Hmm.
And then after that month, now we're gonna do some therapy without you even knowing, because we're gonna build that bond. And
Okay.
because you got to be able to trust me. And once you trust me, I got you. And we're gonna just it's like surgery without the anesthesia. It's gonna hurt. We're gonna get there, but we're gonna slowly, gradually get there. But we're not gonna come in saying, let's do therapy. I got cognitive. No, we're not gonna do none of that. I'm a
Okay.
fan. If you like SpongeBob, I'm gonna find out what's going on with SpongeBob. We're gonna have a conversation about SpongeBob.
Okay.
Just making a human connection.
Okay. Well, I got about a minute left and 20 seconds. What advice can you give to someone that has been released in prison and just day one looking for a new look on life?
Hope. I think you have to have hope. And I think you have, whether you believe or not, I will say faith, but even if you don't have faith, get a good support system. You have to have some like-minded people
Mhm.
to get you there, to challenge you and hold you accountable. When you want to quit, stand with you, and get you. And I think the most important thing, what worked for me, what's your why?
What's your why?
The
Okay.
why gets us through.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. This is Jerry Davis L. He's a mental health professional. Our topic today was renewed life, and it also renewed his voice. So thank you very much for sharing. We appreciate it. This is Janice with Why and Why Not. Watch us on Facebook and YouTube and on the cable channels. Thank you very much and have a nice evening. Thank you for
Thanks, Janice.
coming. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.